Hello and welcome to this Newsmobile special. I am Saurabh Shukla. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has a knack for identifying talent, and that's the reason when he first met S. Jaishankar, who was India's ambassador to China, when Prime Minister Modi was the Gujarat Chief Minister, he did identify him as an exceptional talent. He was really impressed with the way the Indian ambassador, Mr. Jaishankar, had his clarity of thought. He also was impressed in making sure that there were some projects which were completely impossible. Jaishankar made it possible. He also realized that here is an ambassador who's going to actually implement things on the ground, and it also carries through some of the promises that he made during the visit. Mr. Modi was not a very popular figure. Obviously, there was a different government in Delhi, but that did not deter Mr. Jaishankar, because he realized that in Mr. Modi, he was a leader from a state, a progressive chief minister who realized the value of economic diplomacy at par with political diplomacy, which often traditional politicians did not do. So when Prime Minister took over as the Indian Prime Minister in 2014, he knew that S. Jaishankar is going to be a natural choice for him, because obviously at that time he was India's ambassador to the US, and the first visit of the Prime Minister, he was very impressed in the manner in which that visit was handled, be it the Madison Square Garden address that the Prime Minister had, where a record number of congressmen and senators came and were right there, to the way the visit went on. From the briefings to the substantive meetings, he was really genuinely impressed. And he got back to Delhi and he realized that Mr. Jaishankar should be the Foreign Secretary, and he was called back. Sujata Singh was replaced as Foreign Secretary, and for over 3 years, Jaishankar was India's Foreign Secretary. And he was Prime Minister Narendra Modi's key point person on foreign policy. And don't forget that foreign policy became a big achievement of Narendra Modi's 5 years in office from 2014. That is where S. Jaishankar played a key role. Whether it was Doklam issue, whether it was managing the relationship with the US, Jaishankar was always miles ahead. And for S. Jaishankar, even though it's a long walk in terms of the fact that he is the first career diplomat to become India's foreign minister, it's not that much of a walk, because he was sitting on the other corner office as India's foreign secretary. He has just walked into the other big corner office, that of India's foreign minister, and he exercises complete trust of the Prime Minister. Why does the Prime Minister trust Mr. Jaishankar? Number one, he's someone who reads Prime Minister's mind very well. Second big thing, Prime Minister also realizes that he is a crisis manager. He makes impossible possible. He also has very pragmatic and practical advice. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is somebody who does not often makes exception, but when it came to Mr. Jaishankar, he made a big exception. Traditionally, in the bureaucracy-driven world, and especially driven by the IAS, not many people who are retiring are allowed to join a private sector organization immediately. But in case of Mr. Jaishankar, Prime Minister made that exception. In fact, sources tell me that when Prime Minister met him and asked him that he was joining the Tatas, after a short conversation, he said, yes, go ahead. Clearly, that demonstrates the kind of confidence he has in Mr. Jaishankar. And when he had to choose a foreign minister, a worthy successor to Sushma Swaraj, he realized that he had to choose somebody who was not even a minister, I beg your pardon, who was not even a member of either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, was completely a bureaucrat who had joined the private sector, and Prime Minister did not think that it was unconventional. That is where Narendra Modi's creative thinking, out of the box thinking comes into play. Now you have a foreign minister who knows the ministry very well. So it will be a very well-oiled setup. He knows, he works with a set of key advisors. In fact, he gives a lot of elbow room to younger officers. That would be a big asset. He also knows the big issues. So be it managing the relationship, managing the trade and defense relationship with the US, making sure that China is told that it has to respect India's concerns, and also managing the informal summit, which is likely to happen in October, to the multilateral meetings, the meeting with the US President Donald Trump, to some of the other multilaterals meeting which will happen on the sidelines of G20. S. Jaishankar can manage all that. Besides that, he's somebody who keeps his head down. He realizes that for him, it's his boss who matters in terms of publicity, and he has to be given a public profile. While he will give him good advice, while he give him strategic advice, he will never overshadow him. Another thing that Narendra Modi really liked in S. Jaishankar, which sources tell me, is his sartorial style. Prime Minister Modi is somebody who likes people with their impeccable, I would say, elegance and sartorial style. That is where S. Jaishankar also meets the mark. In him, we've got a foreign minister who will be a big asset to India's strategic policy. He's a JNU alumni who studied international relations. His father, K. Subramaniam, was one of India's finest strategic thinkers and also authored India's nuclear doctrine. He served as India's High Commissioner to Singapore, India's ambassador to China, India's ambassador to the US, and also was the head of India's America desk. He was the one who negotiated Indo-US nuclear deal, which marked a strategic shift with India's relationship to the US. He's somebody who is one of the best persons for the job, and I'm glad that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has chosen S. Jaishankar as India's foreign minister. He will be a big strategic asset for India.